Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast where a behavioral scientist examines what it's like to live a humorous life. Glimpse into the lives of the funniest people in entertainment, business, and science as your host, Dr. Peter McGraw, explores their habits, motivations, and secrets to success. Get ready to fire up your brain and your funny bone. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is Wende Curtis. Wende started as a cocktail waitress at Comedy Works in Fort Collins, moved on to general manager, and is now the owner and operator of Comedy Works in downtown Denver and in South Denver. Wende expanded her business to include Comedy Works Entertainment, a concert promotion and talent management division, which has promoted such acts as Dane Cook, Carlos Mencia, and Brian Regan. Wende was honored with the Denver Business Journal's Lifetime Achievement Award for Women in Business. Welcome, Wende.
Thank you so much.
So, Wende, if you weren't working in comedy and entertainment, what would you be doing?
Oh, good Lord, I have no idea. I really don't know.
This is your chance to fantasize.
Well, I kind of have thought about it. Like, what if this gig ever blows up? I'm in trouble. I really don't know what I would do because I've been doing this for now 33 years.
Okay.
Hard to keep that whole guise up of being 27 anymore, but because the math just doesn't work. But I really don't know what I would do. Hopefully, if it ever did blow up in a retirement sort of a thing and I'd be set, but where I wouldn't have to, go out and be forced to make a living right away because I don't know what I would do.
So what if we change the question? And so you were a cocktail waitress at a comedy club. Suppose you didn't become general manager. Suppose you didn't. Where does your life take you, do you think?
I was studying theater, acting and directing and classical voice and business. And I thought business was so stupid. Like textbook management was like, I'm like, this is.
You're reading like Peter Drucker and stuff like that?
Yes, it was bad. I thought it was bad. And I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be an actress on Broadway. I don't think that I could take that kind of brutality, the rejection. I don't think my psyche could take it, honestly. So we're back to, I don't know where I would be. Oh my gosh, the pressure.
Send me an email if it comes to you. So, well, it's clear what you're doing. You own arguably the best comedy club in the nation, which arguably then becomes the best comedy club in the world. Yeah, she's flexing her muscles right now.
That's what we think.
So Adam Caton Holland, who's a forthcoming guest, when I was working on the Humor Code, we did a bit of promotion where we surveyed comics about their favorite comedy clubs, and Adam suggested Comedy Works here, but also like the list of comics who love Comedy Works is long. Dave Chappelle talks about how this is one of his favorite rooms to work on.
Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah. So I've
Ari Shaffir. Lots of them.
Does anyone not like this room?
If they don't, they're silent about it.
Yeah,
no,
because they still want to perform
exactly.
here.
This is magic. It truly is magic, and that's what they love about it.
So we're I'll make sure I get a picture of this, but we're sitting on the stage right now, right in front of the Comedy Works logo, looking out at how many seats is this?
280.
280 seats, and so this is one reason why I wanted to talk to you, right? So this is a magical room. Like, people love this room. And so I want to talk about why, right? So one thing I think is clear. I'm a Comedy Works customer. I've come to shows here. And so one thing that is obvious as like just if I take my behavioral economist hat off for a moment, my scientist hat off for a moment, is that this place is super well run. It's easy to buy tickets and you show up and the queues run efficiently and the staff is friendly and helpful and they hustle and it's professionally run. That's obvious to me. And I think that matters, of course, right? Because you have customers who, of course, they want to laugh, but they also want to have a good experience. Comedians want to get paid, but they also want to have a good experience, and so that matters. Right. But it's beyond just that it's a well-run club.
Yeah.
So what is it?
Well, the magic cookie recipe starts with, I think, the physicality of the room. It's unique, and it's, there are tiers, and people are smashed together.
3, 4, about 4 tiers, more or less. And maybe more in other places.
4 or 5.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because going back on the other side. Right. Okay.
And you're packed in here like sardines. It keeps people compact, and laughter is contagious. And I think that's part of it. And then I think there's also the history of the room in the last 37 and a half years that, we've honed great, smart audiences. I mean, think about some of the people to be here for 37 and a half years. Many customers on any given night weren't even born when the place started. So if they live in Denver, grew up in Denver, and or whatever, grew up in their comedy life in Denver, they know nothing else. This is what they know, which is smart comics, smart opening acts, smart well-run rooms in the showroom, and that we don't permit heckling, and we try to get on that right away so that a good time of a 4-top doesn't interfere with a good time of 250 people or whatever on a given evening. So there's all of those things. And then you said well run, and I do think that we are well run, but I think we are passionately run. I think there are many people that work here that have drank the Kool-Aid.
They love comedy.
They love comedy. They love the reputation of this room. And they've bought into it, and now they're a part of it.
I see.
And maybe they're just slinging drinks. Maybe they're just serving them and bussing tables or seating people, but they bought it. And that has been a huge, huge game changer where I don't feel like I'm out there all alone, and I haven't for a long time.
Yeah, I see. So like your bartender wouldn't be as happy bartending at a hotel down the street. They're excited to be the bartender.
They're very proud.
Yeah.
They're proud to be here. And many of them are super comedy fans and or have become super comedy fans.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a prestige with this room, and they hear it from every comic that comes through. And I hear it after the fact, or when I stop by on Saturday night, or a thank you note, or a text message while they're here. Oh my God, this room. I've heard about this room, and now oh my God, I had no idea. I mean, I imagined it. I mean, I get these all the time, whether it's a quick email or a text or something on social media, or, they send an after thank you note or whatever. They love this room, and we do treat them well. They hungry? What are you hungry for? You want some sushi? Okay, well, here's our options. I mean, you can go, 30 seconds in any direction in this, from our back door, and you can have anything you want to eat. So if they're hungry and they need something to eat, we feed them. If they want bad cheese food in the nacho flavor or the fried flavor, we'll feed them from our own kitchen. But we just treat them with respect. I don't think anybody else in the country puts them up in $1 million condo.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. So, a couple of years ago, because I think that real estate and grand wealth is made off of real estate, and I felt like I'm going to sell my little condo that I put them in, and I'm going to get a bigger condo, a nicer condo. I'm going to get an amazing condo. And I wanted a loft, and I kind of manifested what I wanted. And I found a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,200 square feet with a 600 square foot private patio.
Oh, very nice.
And it's 2 short blocks from here. And so they still have 24-hour concierge service. I love all of these comics, but they're like 9-year-olds. They lose their socks, or they need, they've got to have this fixed or whatever. And it's just really, downtown Denver is very,
it's really booming. It's strong.
And they can get anything done they want down here and or eat anything, as I said before. And so I think when they walk into that place, they go, oh.
Well, because I've spent my share of time in green rooms and doing events at comedy clubs, and have friends who are comics. And so sometimes when I'm in the city, I they're like, well, come on by the apartment.
Right. And they're flop houses, aren't they?
They often are flop houses. And you can get some chicken fingers in the green room and, a cheese plate, but not sushi.
Right. Yeah. You can get those things here too, the bad cheese food too. But if they're hungry, again, we got it so close by. You want Capitol Grill? We got Capitol Grill.
Yeah, that's great. So the comics get treated well. So this room, so as you said, people are packed in, right? So that kind of raises I like to think of it as like it's arousing.
Yeah.
And comedy plays on arousal, which benefits from it. The ceilings are low.
Low.
Very
exactly.
low. Right. And it's a tall guy. I notice immediately how low they are.
It's so cool.
Which people, comics and comedy club owners talk about that idea of what it does is it helps contain the laughter.
Indeed, it does.
It just runs through the room. Even when someone's laughing in the corner, it doesn't dissipate. It sticks.
Right. And in this room, it bounces right back at you. I'm a performer and I've been on this stage. And I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
So you get really great feedback.
Oh, yeah.
And, what's interesting about comics are, of course, the folks who are coming and headlining here are making good money. But the immediate reward, I've only had this happen to me a couple times in my life where I'm standing on a stage and I manage to say something truly, truly funny. And there's a big enough audience that you get that. It's like a wave of laughter that washes over you.
Yeah.
It feels incredible.
It does, doesn't it? You get the addiction. You get what they get and go, oh my gosh, I want more of that. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And that's why some of the new talent people that only perform here, it's like, no. This is not the norm. This is the primo stuff. And this is what you hope for one day, that this is what you're doing all the time. But you need to go out and play every hell gig, these
open mics. Yeah. In cafes.
Exactly. Because it's not the norm that you're going to grow up in this business with rooms like this every night,
So I want to add, we'll get back to the room in a moment, but I want to ask about that. So you do, I think it's kind of famous in Denver, this Tuesday night newcomers show.
Right. The New Talent Night.
New Talent.
Right.
Thank you. And then this is designed to kind of host and hone young talent.
Right.
Showcase them, let them get a taste of the big leagues.
Right. Everybody starts somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's New Talent Night. And prior to Adam Caton Holland and his generation, but him specifically, there was only this room and only our New Talent Night that was really a place. There was very little, if anything else, out there. Adam Caton Holland is, I believe, single-handedly responsible for there being other mics popping up. He said to me, Wendy, do you care if I start like an open mic wherever it was? Like, and it wouldn't compete. It wouldn't be on Tuesday nights. It wouldn't be with Comedy Works. And I go, yeah. I've got widgets. If I put widgets up here on this stage, I would love to have them more well developed. And I'm only devoting one night a week. And there's only a 90-minute show. That's not a lot of time to develop widgets.
Yes.
And when Adam Caton Holland did that, and other club owners around the country were like, what are you doing? You're nuts. Why would you do that?
Why would you introduce competition?
And it's like, well, because they're just getting on my stage faster. Theoretically.
Yeah, this is still the big leagues.
This is still it. They still have to they have to be at this level, at this bar, but they still, they just have that much more time. And like in any given week, they can be working multiple mics a night and every night of the week. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of stage time if they play it right.
This town has come a long way. I live in Boulder, and there's even now a Sunday night Boulder show that's
been doing very well for a while now.
It was standing room only last night.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of, no offense to the guys who run it, it's a bit of a remora fish. So for the listener who doesn't know what a remora fish is, a remora fish attaches itself to another, like a shark.
I'm so glad you explained that for the people out there, because of course I know what a remora fish is.
And so they have this symbiotic relationship, but it's like it follows in the slipstream of a larger fish.
Right.
So, that Sunday night show regularly will have people who are performing here on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Exactly.
And then they're already in town. So rather than fly out on Sunday, they might fly out on Monday. And now Boulder gets a taste of good comedy. And God knows that town needs some good comedy.
Yes, they could use some good comedy.
So you have new talent, and then you also then host specials. So Joe Rogan did a special here.
He did.
Yeah. So talk to me about, so obviously, comics are looking for the room. I have conversations with them. They're working on a special. And I'm like, well, what room are you going to do it in? And it's interesting to hear what the reasons that they do this. Oftentimes they're looking for an audience. They're looking for the right audience that matches the nature of that special.
Right.
So as a club owner, obviously it's great to have specials, but is there anything special about doing specials?
Well, sure. It's just another feather in our cap. It's another credit. Dave Attell, didn't shoot a special. He recorded, an album, Skanks for the Memories. I just love that. I love saying that. I think that in and of itself is funny. And then he actually did another album here that he didn't release, but that was a huge thing years ago. That was one of those first kind of big things that was like, oh, look at this room, look at this room, look at this room. And so the specials are great because it just, you want publicity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got the Comedy Works in the background of something that's on Netflix. And
well, you're not going to see that because they're going to put a set up.
I see.
And so they're going to cover up your logos and stuff. But everybody in the business knows where it was shot. And if you look on the back of it somewhere,
it'll say that.
It'll say that. Yeah. And I don't care if my name is there or anybody else's name. That's what I want there. The brand is what I want.
I see. So give me some inside information. Like, what's the hardest part of your job? This stage, 30 plus years in.
The hardest thing, honestly, now is it's at a personal level for me. And that is that I've done everything in this business and I've got two places and I can't be in two places at once. And I know I've had two places for 10 years now, but that's still a difficult thing.
Okay.
And I can't work Monday through Friday, 45, 50 hours, and be in the rooms all night, every night. I just can't.
I understand.
And there was a time when I did do it. I wore myself ragged consistently. And this was week after week after week. And that was definitely 70 hours a week. But I was in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s, and I'm still 27, but you can't do that forever.
Indeed, yes.
And you also can't build any kind of a life, which I never had before. Swear to you, just never had any kind of a normal existence because it was here. This was it. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. I still love it. I wouldn't change a thing. But at a certain point, I need to grow and evolve a little bit. And I got to figure out if something ever happens, what the heck am I going to do for a living? So it's been great and amazing, but I don't know what else I would do. And I can't do it at that pace any longer. You know what I mean?
So, yeah.
I don't desire to do it at that pace, honestly. Oh my God. I bet you all of my previous therapists are like dropping dead right now. What? She doesn't want to work that much anymore? That's nuts.
So you're thinking, I mean, it's interesting that you say this because I just was down the street having lunch with a friend and this friend and I are, I think, very similar. And that we work very hard and we had to work very hard. And now we're in our 40s and it's paid off.
Yeah.
And life has changed and there's a level of security that never existed before. And yet it's hard to switch off because does this sound familiar?
It sounds so familiar. I'm only 27, but yes, it sounds so familiar.
For 20 plus years, you learned a certain way to interact with the world, mm-hmm. and it was rewarding. So it's doubly rewarding, right? So it's rewarding because now you're not worried about being homeless or, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then you also, because I had no cushion, like I had no one to fall back on.
Right. We weren't part of the Lucky Sperm Club, right?
That's right.
Right.
So it's rewarding because you now have some degree of, and most people never get there where you're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore. And that's very nice. The other one, though, is rewarding because when you work really hard at something and you get good enough at it, it can become, I wouldn't say pleasurable, it can become enjoyable. It's engaging. And so it can be fulfilling. And I think a lot of people who work don't understand that. You know, it's the nature of the work, especially any sort of work that's creative.
Right.
This problem solving, which that's, as a club owner, you're constantly problem solving, that becomes rewarding also. And so then suddenly, like, you go, oh, I don't have to be doing this, but I've never thought about another way to be doing this.
Did you, look at my journal or something? Have you talked to my former therapist? Yeah.
And so then, you know, now, but then you go, well, how am I going to do this new life? First of all, do I want to do a new life? I do want to enjoy myself. I want to reap some of the benefits.
But who am I? Because I feel like I have that this is who I am. Honestly, I've spent many years trying to untangle that this is all I've ever done. No children, except my 4-legged child, Lucy, of course, which was,
I've met Lucy.
She was the most precious child in the universe, but truly nothing like that. Just this. And so this is my legacy. And now that I'm not in the trenches, checking IDs and hiring everybody and doing schedules and ordering booze and yakking with the comics and making sure I know what they want and if they want and what time do you want and where do you want your light? You want your light? You want how much you want to do? You want 47? When I'm not in the trenches, micromanaging every detail, it really did a number on my head. Like, I'm no longer, I don't need to do this. I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, there seems like you have 3 options.
Okay. Lay them out.
You ready for it?
I'm ready. I'm going to write them up.
So the first one is you just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. That's the status quo.
Right.
And, the challenge with that is that deviating from the status quo is very difficult. Right. That's really, really hard to do. And yet it sounds like you would benefit from breaking away from that. And
probably my organization would too.
The next one is this one's a little counterintuitive. The next one is to get more involved again.
Oh God, my young managers are probably like cringing.
I'm
right
sure
now.
they are, but the idea would be to take on, you know, some new challenge that would cause you to get your hands dirty again.
Right.
Now, what does that look like? I don't know. You know, Colorado's booming.
I got lots of ideas.
Yeah. So, you know, Comedy Works Colorado Springs is on its way, and that's going to be a whole set of challenges because of the conservative nature of the town and so on and so forth. And you get your hands really dirty, and it would be a new set of challenges, and you get to work old muscles and so on. And then the last one, I'm just spitballing here. The last one is you step even further away. You let go the apron strings, whatever metaphor you want to use, and you find someone who is competent and you trust, and you do the contractual work. You maybe pull some equity out of this and take a sabbatical. You know, you take a year and you travel, you read, you write, maybe you write your bio. I just read Bud Friedman's improv book. Maybe you write your book, maybe you start a podcast, maybe you go to the Galapagos that you've always wanted to go to. You take a sabbatical while you're still young. It's not retirement. It's like a mini retirement. And you give yourself a chance. You journal, you read, you write, you think, you see old friends.
And you give yourself a chance to bloom.
You give yourself a chance to, and then I bet at the end of that time, you go, I know what I want the next. You know, because you're still young. You still have energy. It's clear you have energy just sitting across from you.
It's all that vitamin B12. That's it.
So in any case, maybe you really step away from it and you really disrupt your life a little bit.
Oh, I don't know about that. But I think you're right. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. It's
that I'm definitely in a weird comfort zone. Anyway, the most brilliant room in the world, and I don't know what to do. Oh, but I am I'm selling my condo out south that I house comedians in, because I've got a lovely 1-bedroom, but I want a 2 or 3 bedroom. I want a big honking one like I have down here. So that is a little bit of a new project.
Okay, that's good.
Put my little one on the market in a week, and I'm looking for a new one.
All right. Well, this podcast will be going up in April, so if people are looking to buy.
If you're looking for a 1 bedroom in the Landmark, I have got a very famous one where many comedians have slept. I will even sell it to you furnished.
I'm not sure that's a selling point.
Oh, no, I think it's great.
Knowing what I know about the habits of comedians, you're probably going to want to scrub that
every
place
one
down.
of them they're angels. If they work here, they're all angels.
That's great.
Every one of them.
So I want to ask about some other things. Okay, so do you have a rival, a frenemy, or even an enemy? I mean, you're in the business world. You have competition.
I've never, I guess you could, when the improv came to town, however many years ago, I guess you could say that maybe I looked at them as a rival for a bit, but it very, very quickly became that they were never a blip on our radar.
I see. Just
Truly.
different customers, not really competing directly.
Yeah, bad location that I told them was a bad location, and they went there anywhere.
Yeah, so for the listener, this is in Stapleton, which used to be the airport here, and then they turned it's kind of like one of these new developments with strip malls and track housing and so on.
And it's, a lovely area. It's just so far off the beaten track for so many people in the metro area. It's kind of difficult to get there, thus making it, if you're trying to attract people from all over the metro area, what I consider to be a bad location.
It's not centrally located. It's up in the northeast part of it. So north a little bit east, right?
North and a little bit east, yeah.
Yes, right. That kind of thing. Yeah, that's right.
It was a great place for an airport, but it's not a great place for...
I missed the location of that airport.
Oh, me too.
So no enemies, no frenemies, no rivals? You're rivalless?
I don't think so. I think that I've done so well. I think that when you're at the top of your game in your industry, that...
You're like the Jeff Bezos comedy club.
I don't mean to brag, but yeah, of sorts.
That's fine. I don't, I've been asking that question just because I think interesting, puzzling question. I also think it's a question that's hard for people to answer.
Yeah.
So I think when people have an enemy, they're not willing to tell
true.
the world they have an enemy.
But I truly think that in the beginning, I kind of think, whoa, they're coming to town. They're after me. And it's like, Yeah,
it didn't work out that way.
Didn't work out that way.
Now, you're female.
Mm-hmm. Last I checked.
That's clear.
Yeah.
And you own a club in obviously very...
Two of them. Mm-hmm.
And how many other female club owners are there out there in the
I don't
world?
know.
Not many.
I'm sure there's a couple.
But not many.
I can't think of who they are, but I know that there's
You guys don't
probably
have a
couple.
convention.
No.
The three of you.
No.
And has that been an advantage? Has it been a disadvantage? Does it matter?
I'm not sure that it ever mattered.
Okay.
But I think that goes back to my beginnings. And my parents had 2 girls. And my dad raced cars, raced motorcycles, coached peewee football. And we did what my dad did.
Okay.
I didn't race cars. I raced motorcycles. I enduroed and I motocrossed when I was a kid. And my sister became his pit crew, part of his pit crew later when he had a dragster. And as did my mom, I guess I should say.
Where was this?
In Denver, in this regional area. He raced what they called super comp because my mother swore that she would divorce him if he ever did alcohol or top fuel. So gas, So 128 miles an hour in a quarter mile.
Less fast.
Less fast and much less dangerous.
I see.
Anyway, so we grew up around that. And I was never told, oh, by the way, you're a girl. Mm-hmm. And so there's things that you can't do. You can be a nurse, but you can't be a doctor or anything of the sorts. I was born.
You can swim, but you can't race motorcycles.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was born in the year that Kennedy was assassinated, if that tells you anything. And if you need to figure that out, though, my parents were very young. My mother was 17, almost 18 when I was born. My dad was 19. And they worked. My mom always worked. And she worked in banking to become a senior vice president of a bank here in town, a large bank here in town. And I just never knew. I never felt like because I'm a girl, I'm any different. I just never knew it. Mm-hmm. And we were never treated as such. And I had friends that had their moms stayed at home, but I had friends that didn't. And I had aunts that stayed at home, and I had aunts that worked, and I had grandmothers that worked. My grandmothers on both sides really ran my grandfather's business on both sides.
So you sounds so very egalitarian. You were a little bit of a tomboy.
Yeah.
And so
a girly tomboy.
Yes.
Kind of a girly tomboy.
So the idea that you'd be working in an industry that has more men than women, no big deal.
No. It was the business of show business. And remember, I wanted to be an actress.
Yes.
So that was attractive to me. It could have been concessions at DCPA, I think. It could have been anything, honestly. And I was attracted to it. When I found out Comedy Works, I was finishing my degree in acting and directing. And when I found out Comedy Works was opening in Fort Collins, I called here all the time, and they never had any information. Nobody knew. Oh, it's going to be opening in a few months. Oh, it's going to be opening in a few months. And I just happened to see the Help Wanted in Fort Collins in the Coloradoan. Thankfully, in the 2 days they had it listed or something, I saw it and went down and filled out an application. I said, I'll do anything. And I meant it. I would have done anything.
Yeah. So you were talking about your staff and how they're fans of comedy. You know, I think there's a long history of comics working at comedy clubs. Mm-hmm. I think I remember Neil Brennan saying he worked the door at a comedy club.
Right. A lot of them.
Yeah. So, have you had staff who have become comedians?
2/3 of the Grolics
worked here.
Ben Roy and Andrew Orvidal.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And what did they do? What were those? Do you remember?
Both of them were doormen, and then they booked birthday parties and stuff online. And
that's interesting.
And Ben. Was Ben a doorman, or did he just book parties and then he did data entry and stuff while he was doing other things too?
I see.
Because they keep their fingers in it. And
and you get to meet these comics. You get to see shows for free.
They get to see shows while they're working. That's kind of a cool deal.
As a comic, that's great. Right?
Yeah.
Because you want to see what the best are. If Dave Chappelle's coming in here, you want to be able to see Chappelle
Absolutely.
up close and get to maybe chat with him and so on.
I don't think it could be any smarter.
Yeah. So if you were going to give people advice, so let's suppose that these two tracks, one is a talent track and another is a management or ownership track. Mm-hmm. If you were going to give people advice, there's young listeners who are interested in one or the other, what would you tell them to do?
Well, if you want to be in the business of show business, I think you get in the business of show business. And that is, again, concessions. I don't care what it is. Working the front of house, working the box office, doing whatever. I've learned it from a wait staff, and then I expanded from there, and I learned all of it from the ground up. And up until a while ago, I could perform any task. You need to know. I believe you can't manage what you don't know, and you can't evolve and grow what you don't know either. Mm-hmm. I could not leave here today and go buy some sheet metal business and be successful at it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd have to get a job and work my way up and figure it out. That's how you know. You don't know what you don't know. And those that walk in and think that it's just about numbers and all that, I go, okay, yeah, well, I know who you are. And that's not right. Mm-hmm. So I believe that you've got to get in the business. And then, of course, if you want to be in specifically a comic.
Wait, before you answer that about being a comic. So most of your senior staff they've moved up through Comedy Works. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Like managers. Yeah.
Most of them have
20 some years, and a lot of 15, 20 years, 10, 15. Just my executive assistant, 7 years, just out of college kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So, they've worked their way up. And as I worked my way up, and that's how you intimately know. And there is no corporate. We are corporate. We now have a world headquarters. And that's what I call it. I go, no, this is the world headquarters. I don't know how big we're going to get, but it could be across the world. So it's the world headquarters from the get-go.
Yeah, look, see, that could be your next big, hairy, audacious goal, right? Pick these, there are cities out there that are lusting for a crown jewel.
It's true.
Club.
Somebody suggested Dubai to me, and then somebody else suggested read Escape from Dubai. And that squashed that. That was it. I go, I'm not doing Dubai.
I'll be in Dubai in May. I'll scout it out for you.
Okay, would you? It's beautiful, but it's hot. And read Escape from Dubai. I would never go into business in Dubai.
Fair enough.
I would like to just conquer this country.
Yeah, well, the American West is a nice place to live.
Yeah.
Western living, I say this a lot. I grew up in New Jersey. Western living is where it's at. And it really, you know, there's this sort of, you know, go west, young man, the gold rush, this idea. I actually still exists. There's still opportunities. Yeah, it's, you know, it's nice. So, in any case, I don't know, Boise?
Yeah, we had a club there.
Oh, you did?
Comedy Works 100 years ago had a club. When I first started for a short period of time, they had one. Yeah. And it wasn't open for very much longer. But somebody else is doing a club there or something. I see.
I'm sure there's competition for this stuff. Okay, so you were going to say advice for people who want to do the entertainment side, who for young comics. What advice do you have for them? I think that you should work
in a comedy club. You need to see as many possible shows as you possibly can. And you need to get on stage. There's nothing... You can't just watch it. You've got to dip your toe. You've got to get wet. You've got to get really wet. And then you've got to find a mentor. And you got to write. And you've got to find somebody that's doing it. What does Tony Robbins say? That find somebody that's where you want to be and listen to them and do what they're doing. And I so believe that about anything. It doesn't mean that, and in this business, you could have 100 mentors. You could have all different kinds of mentors. But it's hard work. You know, there's so much more opportunity now for performers, given all the different mediums, you know, that they can, it's not just television and it's not just film anymore. And certainly since I've been in this business, stand-up has exploded.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I used to be able to, if you gave me an hour or two, I could probably write down just about every comedian out there. And I can't do that anymore. And there's a lot more opportunity, but it's not easy. There's so much more competition and you got to be good. Well, it depends on what you want to do. And if you want to work here and you want to headline here, you're going to be good and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get that good old hardcore work ethic going.
Yeah. You know, it's really striking. So I think first of all, the average person in the audience has no idea how the sausage is made.
Right.
And that's probably for the best.
Sure.
I know how the sausage is made, and it affects my enjoyment of the shows as a result of it. But, you know, what's interesting is that oftentimes comics, especially stand-up comics, become stand-up comics because they're not good at playing by the rules. They don't excel in a classroom environment. They don't want a 9-to-5. They don't want all these things. And yet, to be successful, there's a little bit of factory work that goes into being a good comic. Like,
it's true.
Like being regimented in writing and being regimented in going out. And I was just reading, the improv book by Bud Friedman, and it was talking about Richard Lewis. So Richard Lewis's first year, Richard Lewis probably is as close to a natural as you're going to find. David Brenner, lend him $1,000 so he could quit his job and do comedy. And Richard Lewis's first year performed 340 out of 365 nights.
There you go.
And so, like, for the person who's like maybe a little, you know, like not really they don't really want a regular job. The irony is that you actually have to kind of treat it like a regular job if you want to become elite. If you want to say you're a comic, you don't have to do that. But if you want to be a comic, it seems like you have to do that. That's what you're suggesting. So there's like 9 things you're supposed to be doing simultaneously,
right,
in order to get good at this.
And it's hard in the beginning when you do have your day job and you've got to battle that 40 hours or whatever just to make a living. So, and then do all this other stuff and have the energy to be out there.
Yeah, because you're out late and so on. And then the lifestyle can be rough.
It can. And they get in and they slip into it. They slip into, having a couple of cocktails everywhere they go. And it's like, oh God, I wish you wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. And then also I think the other one is that, I've had this where I give talks. So I used to teach in the evening, and I think class wrapped around 9 p.m. or so, maybe 9:30, not much later than that. It would seem to be great because if I timed it right, I could be in bed by 10:30, which would make me happy. But even if I got into bed at 10:30, I was not falling asleep.
Right. Your mind was still.
I was just buzzing 2 hours after that. And so, you do your last set at midnight, you're wide awake. And, and so it's hard to live a healthy lifestyle, I suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And running a club too.
Yeah, that's.
And if you're ADD like me, you're not doing your paperwork and your stuff to get the deposits and all that sort of stuff because you're off like doing some sort of a spreadsheet on what Tuesday nights have looked like for the last 20 years. And then you get home and it's like the middle of the night. Yeah.
So I could see why you'd be looking for a bit of a change. So you had mentioned your journal. You made a crack about have you read my journal? So you journal.
Yeah.
Daily?
No.
What's your journaling process like?
Probably like once a week.
Okay.
It's almost like a download, and I know I should be doing it more often and so that I could use it as a creative, outlet. It's more like a sort of an outlet.
Okay.
Just letting it all out
so
there.
So you're finding it as a way to just let go of things.
Yeah.
I see.
Trying to anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. That's neat. I just started journaling. I think it's a fascinating thing. I wish
really
I had
is.
done it.
Oh
I wish
my
I'd
God.
done it a long time ago.
I had friends in college, actors, one in particular, that had been journaling since he was like 13 or so. And he started everyone with, well, and every day. And I mean, at that time, here we were like, sophomores or juniors in high school or in college. And he had just pad after pad after pad. And it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. David Sedaris recently published a book with entries from his journal going back to, he's in his 40s.
Yeah. I just saw something
13.
about that. Yeah.
So he has, 30 years of journaling there. And there's, it's a gold mine of stories and memories.
Yeah.
And, of course, is it any surprise that David Sedaris is as good at writing as he is if he writes every single day about the fun, weird, strange, upsetting things about David Sedaris' life? You've had some hard years, here, at times. How do you deal with that stuff? I mean, you obviously the journaling, you have therapy, you go to therapy.
Right. When those hard times hit, and that was after we opened the South Club, because we opened in October of 2008, which is ironically the same month as the largest bankruptcy in the history of this country when Lehman Brothers went up. Those people have been in business for 150 years, and I'm just starting this new one. What am I thinking?
And so you opened the club or you broke ground?
We opened,
in
club. October of 2008. Okay. And to give you just a little bit of an idea, we didn't actually close on those loans. So we're up and operating for business October of 2008, full time out south. We didn't close on loans until July of 2009.
Okay.
And they were a mess because, when your building isn't done, your loans expire in 90 days. And so they just found they had all this opportunity when my building didn't get done to not fund me. And then I had to figure out more creative ways to get funded.
I see. Okay. And so
painful.
So your solution was to problem solve.
Yeah. And to do the only thing that I really know well, and that was to kind of pad up, put on my helmet and my pads and put my head down and go. What was I going to do? Quit? Then they could take my business from me. But if I didn't quit, and I just kept going. And I remember like one guy who said, like, you owe me money and there's going to be penalties and interest. And I said, respectfully, I understand. And he was working for a father-in-law in a, family business. And I got it. And I said, you have to do what you have to do. And I understand it and I respect it. And I will pay you. Well, I need you to sign here that you're going to pay this amount, this much every month until it's paid off. I said, I'm not going to sign something like that I don't know that I'm going to be able to make that much money on that. But you have my word. I will pay you everything I owe you. And I did. I paid everything, everybody, anything that I owed them. If I was behind and or whatever, I paid them with interest, with penalties, with whatever. And, paid it until it was done. Now it's done. Now I look back at that and I go, yes. Kind of those hard times were the times that really showed me truly what I'm made of. And that is, don't F with me. I will do it. I don't care what you say. I will do it. And I can do anything I put my mind to. That's what they're there for. Because anything I'd ever touched before just turned to gold, truly. So it was good for me.
Yeah. I mean, I have a saying that anything worth doing is going to be difficult.
Yep.
And so,
and if it were easy, everybody'd be doing it.
There would be a lot of comedy clubs out there.
And they'd be really brilliant.
Yes.
And they're not. And it's not hard, though. Let me tell you, it's not hard. It's common sense.
Oh, I wanted to ask about this, and then I've got one other question, and I'll let you go here. So I came here recently, I don't know, on a Thursday night, and the staff put my phone into a sealed bag that I could not open.
Right. That was left in your possession.
Which is in my possession, which I appreciated. Mm-hmm. I'm not big about phones in general. I know about the challenges of people recording acts and that kind of stuff. And then also just the distraction that they cause, right?
Right.
You know, just like now someone next to me is texting and now I'm annoyed by them when I should be listening to.
Or somebody's pulling it out of their purse simply to look at that's below you. It's simply to look at the time and the light. It's all of those distractions.
So how long have you been doing that? And would you say you folks were early to
Well,
this?
we were the first.
You were the first.
April of 2015 or 14. I think it was 15.
That's early.
And that's when Dave Chappelle was coming in. And they told me that I had to do this Yonder thing, and it was about the cell phones and whatever. And I go, okay. And I'm trying to understand it. And we're cutting this deal at like between midnight and 3:00 in the morning. I'm not kidding. On a Sunday morning, he texted me, "Hey, Wen, blah, blah, blah." I go, yeah. And then I get on the phone and go back and forth via email with his agent, one of my favorite people on the face of the planet. And I didn't really get it. As with all of their words that they used, I didn't really get it. But I knew I had to do it. It came right off the top of the deal, right? So it came out of the proceeds and I didn't have to pay anything extra for it. And Dave was here for 4 nights in both rooms. And I knew by night 2, this is different. I need to look into this. And I called Graham in San Francisco at Yonder and I go, what's it going to cost me to keep this?
I see.
And so I literally did keep all that inventory. They left me everything. They sent me more. They sent me a couple of bills and I bought them for both clubs because it was a game changer. And you could see it. You know, that first night, the late show, a Monday night late show that they just booked at the last minute. So they didn't plan to take that night off or the next day off or whatever. They've been up since 6 and, blah, blah, blah. And they're tired. And they were so attentive. And I mean, it was tangible. You could feel it. Mm-hmm. And so that was night 1. And night 2, when you're now really watching those people again in the showroom, because they have to be present. We're no longer present. I sit at the dining room table with my boyfriend and I'm on my phone. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for emails or responding, whatever. We all do it. And I have to really try to disengage to not do it. But we're constantly doing that. And we don't wear watches anymore. And we do use that as a timekeeper. And it's all of those things. But here we are in this amazing live moment and you're paying 50 or whatever bucks to see somebody and somebody big like Chappelle or whatever. And you're present. What a concept.
Yeah, that's great.
What a concept.
It's a win-win. The audience is better off and the comedians are better off.
And for those that think that, because some people, a doctor on call, new parents out for the first time or their 13-year-old is home alone, whatever. It's, you put it on vibrate and you simply put it in your pocket. You keep possession of the phone. Mm-hmm. So if something happens, like a vibrate, you step out of the showroom, they unlock it and you make your call or check your phone or whatever. It'll slow you down 20 seconds.
Yeah, but it's, it's for the greater good.
Absolutely.
95% of people don't have that worry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wendy, that's great. That's super cool. I appreciate. As a professor, I appreciate that. So last question I want to ask you is, what are you reading, watching, or listening to that really stands out? That's really. I am big right now into Scientology. Okay. I am. Oh, like the documentary? What's that? Well, there's the A&E documentary, but prior to that, I had seen a couple, like Going Clear, a documentary, but then there's the A&E docuseries that's in its 3rd season, and I just find this fascinating, and I can't get enough of it. And I'm reading several things. I just finished Adam Caton Holland's book. Okay. What was your big insight? What stuck with you about from that book?
From Adams?
Yeah.
Well, it was heart-wrenching. It was truly heart-wrenching. And I laughed too, but depression, mental illness and depression, I know we talk about this, but it is being talked about more, and it's not this thing that we shut away and we don't talk about, and we can't talk enough about it because so many people suffer from it.
So this is his memoir and his sister and his sister's death.
And his sister's suicide and the impact on the family. And hard. I'm also reading The One Thing.
Oh, I know that book.
The One Thing.
Yeah, it's a useful book.
Yes, it was a guy in one of my CEO groups that recommended that to me. So I just started that one this weekend.
It's a good reminder book, I think.
Yeah.
So I'll put the link in the exhibits, but it's about remembering what is the most important thing you should be doing in these different areas of your life. And helping you prioritize and so on.
Right. And so I'm anxious to kind of put that together because it does seem like when I was just kind of going through it a little bit and maybe the first chapter this weekend, I thought, maybe this is kind of where I need to be. And I just finished reading 3 different biographies about Gloria Vanderbilt. That one fascinates me. And I don't know, a year or so ago, I saw that Gloria Vanderbilt and Anderson Cooper documentary, which is fabulous.
Okay.
And I've always been intrigued by her. And so I just started reading, and I've got a few more biographies that I've got on her.
So I'm curious about this. Isn't one biography enough?
No, it's interesting. It's interesting to me that the different angles that you can get and the different level of detail. Some things you can get a lot more detail.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and of course that's just about the style of writer. And this is just because there's so much out there. She's been around a long time and had a very interesting and curious life. And so there are a lot of different things out there.
Oh, interesting. I never thought to do that. I remember many years ago doing a cross-country road trip. I mean, this was when you would rent tapes.
Yeah.
Right? To do books on tape. Really old school stuff. And I listened to an Abe Lincoln biography, and it was spectacular. But I never thought I would read it. I was like, oh, well, okay, now I know it. It's interesting. I never would have thought that you would pick a different one and because I'm sure one sentence in one biography might be an entire chapter in another biography.
Right. And I've always been very intrigued by old Hollywood. That's just, that whole thing is so fascinating to me. Yeah. It always has been.
Well, Wendy, this has been great. Thank you for opening your club during the day for me.
Thanks for coming.
Us.
And we warmed it up a little bit. It was a little chilly when I walked in, wasn't it?
It's nice. Very good. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit petermcgraw.org for more information about our guest, show notes, and social media links. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with others. Join Dr. Peter McGraw next week for another fun, fascinating conversation on I'm